Warning. The following video contains strong language that some viewers may find offensive or disturbing.
Serious people with confirmed below average intelligence. How has your intelligence affected your life experience? And what would you want the world to know about what it's like to be you? IQ of 87 here. I saw somebody else has 90 IQ whose story is very similar to mine. Words just don't seem to click in college. My brain gets saturated after about 2 hours or so and I can't remember any studying past that. There's no chance at studying the last minute and it's weird to be the smartest in the family despite obvious flaws. I seem to have zero ability to think outside the box. It happens from time to time and it's extremely satisfying when it does. Lastly, my working memory and comprehension is not very good, which is what an IQ test is based on. This means when I'm literally at work in my retail job, sometimes I completely forget what I was doing or where I put an object a customer was supposed to get. Oh, I have one for this. I was born with a severe case of hydrocephalus that no one caught onto until I went nearly full potato at 18. And then comatose a few days after when I turned 19. Turns out, all the issues that I had with learning things, memory retention, emotional maturity, etc., that was all affected by the water pressure building up on my brain. I wasn't being a lazy slacker kid. I worked my ass off to pass my classes and graduate. I just couldn't process things well, so a lot of it came as difficult for me. In my haze of a memory during the first visit to the neurologist, it was determined that my condition was so severe, I shouldn't have progressed past middle school learning, and most, if not all, people diagnosed with the level of pressurization and compression of the brain as I was were in assisted living facilities just surviving as shells. After needing a second surgery a year later, my brain eventually started firing the signals for mental maturity, but the process was still pretty difficult. Had to learn how I learned best. Things didn't process the same way. I've also adapted to overcompensating to make up for the lack of intelligence. Didn't have the work smarter option most times, so I just worked harder. It's been about 12 years since the last surgery and I've grown immensely during that time as a person. But the work harder to overcompensate is still a huge issue for me. We still don't know how off I really am cause no one caught it early enough, and that's a really isolating feeling. I have an IQ of 90, which means below average. I sometimes see that other people can memorize and understand stuff faster than me. My triplet sister was born with a brain bleed and partial damage to her brain. We were all 3 months premature and it happened to affect her more than me or my brother. She has a lower IQ and was put in the special education classes in 2nd grade. I would never consider her to be dumb in any way. We have a very close relationship and we communicate very well. She looks completely normal and has really nothing wrong about her besides her lower IQ. We live in a narcissistic household and she was obviously dubbed as the black sheep and was bullied throughout school as well. When we were younger, I also ganged up on her with the rest of my family, because I thought it was normal at 7 years old. We've definitely gotten closer as we've gotten older and we kinda stick like glue against the rest of our family. We're both very empathetic and kind, and a lot of my other family members are complete bullies, so we seem a tiny out of place. She's doing well now that we've finished high school and she has gotten a boyfriend recently who seems very kind, and she will hopefully getting a job soon and moving out by next year. It'll be funny to see her be the first one to move out because everyone always said she would live with my mother forever. I'm proud of her and I love her. Edit, wow, my first gold folded hands. I have a global information processing disorder. If our brains were computers running at 60 frames per second normally, mine runs around 45 on a good day, not quite enough to really be noticeable, as it might in some people with Down syndrome for the sake of example, but enough to lower my IQ and cause problems in my everyday life. I'm one of the lucky ones. I can function relatively normally, discounting autism and the occasional epileptic seizure. However, I'm also fully aware of this deficit, and how high my IQ could be. Talking slowly or getting annoyed because I've asked you to repeat something, or pushing me out of the way when I don't react fast enough. That's just rubbing it in. I can't change how well I process information, believe me. I've asked my doctor about it. And other people have tried before me. I'm stuck where I'm at in this regard. And it's hard to try harder when I'm already running at 110% just to keep up with the rest of the world. Late to the thread. I was given an intelligence test in 6th or 7th grade. A group of us were given it for some study. The person entering the data into the scoring matrix misplaced a decimal point on mine. They told my mother I had the IQ of a 5-year-old. It took a week for them to figure out the mistake. For a week straight everyone treated me different. I was the one who answered the phone when they called with the correction. My family still brings it up 20 years later. My IQ is just below average. I'm not great at standardized tests or math. I wasn't in a special education program but I got C's in the average non-AP classes. Scraped by in college. Most of my decisions are based on a feeling and I just have to work much harder to understand things than most people. So I find I'm just constantly working really hard. But I keep myself open to new ideas and new ways of doing things. But the things I am good at, I'm really good at. I also try to use it to be funnier and the life of wherever I am. Also, I know this is a cause for shame but I should also mention. I didn't vote in 2016. Not because I'm lazy but because I didn't understand either side's policies or what they represented. I know there's a lot of people saying, just vote, but like. Should I be voting if I don't know exactly what I'm voting for? I would have voted blue because I like to think I'm progressive but I don't really know what would be different. So now you sort of see how my mind works. Hopefully. I don't know if I'm actually below average but I have a learning disability. I'm ADHD and I always struggled really hard in school. I would stay up all night studying my ass off. Only to make either a D or an F. Sometimes a C if I was lucky. I mean I really studied. I feel like as an adult it's been a bit easier to learn some things now that I don't have the pressure of tons of schoolwork and teachers assuming I'm lazy and telling me to try harder. I've taught myself how to keep a budget really well. I've taught myself how to start a reselling business and even track my expenses really well. I feel like I function all right. But I'm very intimidated by a lot of things that I'm supposed to do as an adult. Anything to do with taxes really scares me because I'm terrified I'll mess them up somehow. I'm really shy in conversations because I have trouble pulling the words out of my brain to explain how I feel about a subject. If I'm writing out what I want to say I can do pretty well. But speaking it is very intimidating. I have a lot of opinions on things and love to learn different viewpoints on things but I'm terrified of someone trying to debate me or have a conversation with me about any of those things because I don't know how to repeat anything I've learned. I just have it stored in my brain and can't put it into words easily. Basically it's contributed to a lot of my social anxiety and I have a major inferiority complex. I'm 30 years old and I feel like such a late bloomer in every possible way. My mom at my age was already married with 2 children and fully established in her life. I'm nowhere near that point. I'm just now learning the basics of being an adult. I feel like all of my 20s was an extension of my teenage years. I feel embarrassed of myself honestly. One of my brothers always had a slight mental disability. Maybe you could say below average intelligence. But the things he takes interest in, he often thrives. However, he can struggle to understand things that others would consider almost common sense. He was never diagnosed with anything or there was never a clear label. I think the worst thing my siblings and I were ever told was that he had some sort of mental disability. Because growing up we were only 2 years apart. For a long time we were best friends. Essentially we were Irish twins. Suddenly, he had something wrong with him. And my siblings treated him slightly different. And so did I. We just assumed that he didn't understand things that we did, etc. Almost similar to how humans treat animals. We are more intelligent, therefore superior. I remember when I was about 13 years old. My brother 15. And we had a massive fight over something silly. In retaliation I said, "Well, at least I'm not stupid like you." He stormed off and locked himself in the bathroom. Immediately I felt bad and begged him to open the door so I could apologize. I found him crying and he said to me, "I know there's something wrong with me, but I just can't understand what it is." At that moment my heart broke. I realized how awful I was to have ever put him in such a box over some minor difference. Since then, I don't treat him any different to anyone else. My siblings still treat him differently to each of us. Which is a shame, but it often makes me think, who really is the one with the mental deficiency? Because so what if you struggle with something? We all struggle with something. At the end of it all, he's still my best friend and we both have each other's backs through everything, and I don't trust anyone quite the same that I trust him. We as humans put so much weight on intelligence. Although I think it's important to understand everyone's struggle, sometimes the worst thing we can do is attach a label or a description which can completely diminish their intrinsic value as a person. So I'm writing this for him. To say just treat everyone with respect and consideration. And suddenly things like low IQ or mental disability become obsolete. I have low IQ. But I was never tested for anything else. My parents are actual geniuses. Both have poor background but managed to succeed. All my siblings are smart also. I had trouble following teachers and other kids in classes. It took way more time and more examples to figure something out. I never had the time to do anything else than study. I don't think I've had friends since kindergarten. I can't talk to people. I have trouble understanding most jokes in reasonable amount of time. I never understood deeper meaning in any movies, songs or books, even when somebody explained them to me. The thing that screwed me up the most is that you can do anything you want if you work hard enough thing we say to the kids. Because it worked for my parents. They thought it will work for me. And not just them. All motivational speakers. All teachers. I worked 10 times more, literally, than other kids, so I was actually pretty good in high school. I thought that uni is going to be the same. Just by going there and working hard I will get my degree. What happened was that I couldn't follow courses after the introductory stuff. I somehow passed the first year, but I was kicked out after second year because my exam results were so bad. I developed several sleep disorders, several addictions, and I'm in huge debt as a result of my 2 failed years in uni. I can't even get my driver's license. There are too many things on the road to keep track of. Now I'm jobless. I can't even get a job as a janitor, and I genuinely don't know what I'm going to do. I had a job at a lumber mill for 2 days until I injured a coworker. I had a job at a restaurant, but I was fired from there also because of my character. My dream was never to earn a lot of money or anything similar. My dreams were things that 99% of people experience, like getting a proper job so I wouldn't depend on my parents. Getting a degree to make my parents proud and to prove to people that IQ is meaningless. Learning how to drive. Getting married and getting kids. Now all those things are impossible and I have 50 long years of my miserable life to live. I have Asperger's. Please don't be rude when you have to repeat yourself. Do not expect me to get a hint. If I don't get it, break it to me gently. No car radio and talking at the same time. Too much stimulus. May appear to be angry in loud restaurants. Too much stimulus. Am I doing something socially weird? Talk to me about it nicely in private. I probably didn't realize it was weird and can stop. Please don't ditch me as a friend when, not if, I screw up. At least try to talk it out. I was not quite qualified for the normal school, but they let go anyway to try it out. I remember the admission IQ test. I knew it was a test and thought there must be some kind of secret bonus answers, like the cube might fit in the triangle hole somehow since the sides of the cube are smaller than the long side of the triangle. I'm not smart. There's quite a few times I miss what might seem like obvious details. Overall, I've done okay, though a lot of things have been more stressful than they should be because I'm constantly second-guessing myself. I'm reading comments. Learning disability doesn't equal less intelligence. My brother scored pretty high IQ but has been diagnosed with a learning disability. I mean, a person can be great at school because they were great at memorizing, and taking tests doesn't equal high intelligence either. Learning disability might mean you might need more help with certain aspects of learning because your brain process information different than average person and not low IQ. I learned to read novels before I started school at 4. I just got things and excelled to the point I was bored. Then I was punched in the head. I'm in my 30s now. Still desperately trying to get into university but knocked back constantly. Can't retain information I hear and slow to process it sometimes. I'm talking days. I'm a visual can really learner. I'm poor. Will never own my own home because I can't get a job that pays well enough to save. I have no friends and no connections. Can't help my kids with their math homework and also feel like a failure. As a functioning adult, it's difficult because people expect so much more from us than we are able to do or give. Which makes us hate ourselves even more. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. See you next time.